Oh, someday I'll get used to this microphone, maybe. All right, we're gonna, yep, we're gonna start with the pledge. Phil, lead us.
Okay. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, and Sandy, let me turn on your microphone. And Phil, I'm gonna turn yours on. Okay. And if you want to.
Logan,
Present.
Bullock, Butler,
Here.
Freeman, Newquist,
Here.
Revis, Trinier.
Present. We
We have a quorum.
Wonderful. And do we have an agenda? I'm working on it. Courthouse ordinance. There we go. It is June 10th. Look at that. Time is flying. The year is almost halfway over. Approval of minutes is the first thing on the agenda. Motion Freeman,
Second Butler.
second Butler. Absolutely. You, oh man, did you see something?
Yeah, I'll get you some time here. All right, page 3.
No,
Minutes.
minutes.
Chapter 1.
Page three. No, that's okay. Go ahead.
Page 3, Mr. Mock stated in chapter 36, yada, 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 about halfway down to the far right. Is that effect spelled correctly?
Oh, look at you being a spelling bee. I'm trying to find a sentence. How?
I had some time. Right in the middle on the right-hand side.
I got the
I
right.
don't know if it should be effective. I think it should be EFFECT, I think.
Where's that? Yeah. I'm on page 3. I don't have a word search.
Right there.
Oh, yeah.
I
yeah.
think it should be
And to
effect.
give it more force and effect to it.
I think.
So yeah, it should be the effect with the E. It
'Cause-
is the one.
Because isn't affect like an emotion?
Oh, you know,
Or is that spelled correctly?
5, 7, 8, 9.
It's correct like it is? Okay.
Ninth line down, last word, affect should be effect.
Okay, next one,
Yeah.
it's Scrivener's error. So it's
Page 4.
page 4 at the bottom. Scrivener is always pluralized. Errors is the one that's plural or singular, and it's throughout the entire thing. There's like 4 or 5 misspellings on it. Bottom page 4 and about 3, 4 lines up in the middle, page 4 in the middle.
Yeah, it says Scrivener errors, and it should say Scrivener's error.
And then the rest of them, I think it says Scrivener's with the apostrophe at the end of the S, like on page 5, it says it.
You're finding the Scrivener's errors in the Scrivener's error. You
That's what I thought was ironic. I'm like, I got it.
through a program.
Very good. That was a test.
Oh, that's a test? Oh, yay.
I just want to know if you put it through a program. Are you
Uh,
really that much of a wordsmith?
Well,
My late mother-in-law
previous
was.
teacher, so what are you gonna do? It's just,
Uh-huh.
this time I read it.
And Micah Freeman, look out. Yes.
So Scrivener's error throughout are spelled wrong. And then on page 6 at the bottom, I don't know what happened there. Motion to remove the word, and I don't even know what that word is.
Personnel computer, personal.
That's all,
computer.
it's all
Anyway,
jacked up.
yeah.
Page 7, other old business. Do we always leave that much space? Because I'm just afraid someone can write something in there. Do we always leave that much space? Yeah,
Yeah. See, there's like.
it's a whole half page that's empty. Shouldn't it be like pushed up a little bit? I mean, that's just,
That's part of the program.
Yeah, it's mid track.
and they leave that much space in there?
Will, yeah.
Anything else?
Nope.
Okay, member Newquist, oh,
Okay, going back to the Scrivener's errors on the bottom of page 4,
Uh-huh.
the errors has to be plural because it says there were some Scrivener errors. I think it should be Scrivener apostrophe S errors.
It's Scrivener is always, the Scrivener is the writer.
Scrivener's always a
copier.
apostrophe, yes.
Right, but it should be errors plural because it's, What? Oh, okay. I thought you said it should just be
No,
error.
he was talking more about the Scrivener.
Got
thing, and
it.
He said it's either error
Okay.
or errors.
Got it. I thought you were saying it should be singular. Got it.
I can give you the history of Scrivener if you want, but.
I
No,
love this
that's okay.
spelling challenge here today. This is awesome. Okay, now, all right, we have a motion and a second. You want to make a motion to amend?
Do I need to, or is that just
I
Scrivener?
don't-
No, you should amend.
Okay, I need you guys to be quiet so I can get the motion. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's okay. I'm asking.
Do I
He
need a
should,
motion
he
then?
should move to amend because it's before you guys.
That's what I thought. Yeah. So make a motion to amend.
So I make a motion to amend the minutes as previously stated.
Correct.
Second Freeman. Can I second Freeman since I?
Yep, you can second Freeman and then she'll do a roll call.
Logan,
Yes.
Butler,
Yes.
Freeman, Newquist,
Yes.
Trinier.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay, and then a motion to approve as amended is required next.
Motion to approve as amended, Freeman.
Second, Logan.
We have a previous Trinier. We have a second?
Dan? Oh, I'll second it. Second previous.
Yep.
I can do that.
Okay,
Yep.
we get you.
All in favor, say aye. Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Wonderful. Okay, minutes look great. Now we're on to review of the next chapters, but I know that member Freeman and myself both found a couple errors in the stuff that's going to the executive committee on Thursday, and I just want to make sure
I
that we got
I dealt
those.
with Jackie and
We got it all? Okay, that was my only concern about that. And now we have chapter 37 in front of us, right? 37, 39, 40, 41, 42, and 43. When you're looking at 37, you want to be sure to look at the one that was updated on June 5th as opposed to the one that we had previously had sent out.
Is that the one attached to our agenda?
I hope
Yeah.
so.
It has been switched out.
6/5/25. Yeah, the date is there, so it should be.
Most of it's perhaps.
Yeah, because there were a lot of rule changes. So if everybody wants to, and I think we did talk about this a little bit. I feel like in our last committee, we just didn't really move to approve it, and finalize it.
Because there were so many, formatting.
Right, he was making all the format corrections, and I know there was discussion about, oh, can we make a chart out of this? And basically, it was decided that it's not really feasible because the titles are so long.
And-
So, member Newquist,
Oh, I just have a question about 37 once we get there. That's
we're
all.
there.
Okay.
And Mr. Mock, you want to take it? Start from the top?
I just wanted to say one thing. The reason I didn't go with the chart is because this is basically copied from the state statutes. When they recodified what the circuit court cost should be, and that's the one that has most of the information in it. It's basically cut and paste, although we retyped it from the statutes. That's why even in some of these, they talk like Schedule 4, no cost. Well, that's what the state statute says. You have to adopt it. And basically, the state mandated we adopt them the way that they did it, and that's why we did it that way.
Okay, and all those scratch outs are just that's old, that's no longer in place.
It was the old system before the state
Right.
changed it. Now, you guys already did pass the new ones because the court's been operating under them, but the actual body of the code of ordinances, it never struck the old one. It just passed the new one, and we're just trying to clean it up.
So if you go to the top of page 13, you should have, let's see if they match, a small letter I, 2 I's, and then a large number 3. I know for certain the word clerk is spelled incorrectly. Not sure if the 3 is in the right place.
Where are you at?
Where?
Top of page 13.
Looks good. to me.
Which,
Oh, you know what? That's the old one. Sorry. He got that corrected. Yeah, here it is.
Oh,
There it
it's-
is. Yeah, it's been fixed.
Yeah.
Okay. That was in my original copy, not the newest one. Let me see. Do we?
Have one with the corrections that were made
It was,
This one, does it have on 6/5?
I don't know.
I sent one that was dated, I think, 6/1 originally, and then I corrected it.
Yeah.
And the most correct one that's in front of you for consideration is the 6/5.
So it doesn't have those in it that I sent to you.
No, I fixed those. No, anything that anybody mentioned to me, I corrected. Like in some of the areas, it went dot, dot, dot instead of I. So I
Right.
fixed those. I went through it again and any kind of recommendation that was made, I went through it and found them, and it should be in good format. And again, all the dollar amounts were, everybody read and they haven't changed. They're all the same that we are actually doing right now.
On page 15, it still looks funny on item number 12.
Okay.
It says for each page of hard copy print output, case records are maintained on an automated medium. And the on and the and just still look funny to me. I don't,
What number are you looking?
yeah, I don't know if it's correct or not. It just, the font looked funny. And probably not much you can do about it, but I just thought I'd mention that.
I did try to retype that and it came up that way again.
Still-
Wait, you're on page 15, numbers.
Just looked funny. And then I know we had some discussion about page 25. I thought we were gonna strike that last part because we're not new building anymore and the new judicial facilities in Will County is still there. Go ahead. Are we saving that for
No,
River
here's why we're keeping it.
Okay,
I spoke to the treasurer about this
okay.
and I said, we're collecting this fee. What is it for? Can we use it for maintenance purposes? Can we use it for anything else along those lines?
Mhm.
And what they said is the money that is being collected is paying off the bonds that were issued. So it technically is going to the building, the new
Got it.
judicial facilities.
Perfect.
That's why I had to leave it in there because that's what the money goes to. Even if it's retroactive collection and payment, it's paying for the new facility.
Okay. Okay, so that's 37. Do we have another question?
So should we
Member-
add something like
Freeman?
until all bonds are paid or anything like that?
No, because you have the ability, if you can continue to collect this even after all bonds are paid, if you're building another new facility.
Okay.
Say you wanted to build a new juvenile facility, or say you wanted a branch court in one of the outlying areas,
Mhm.
you could still collect it and use it for those.
Yeah, no,
So
we should leave
do
it.
I need to go through the things that I noticed? He said he fixed them already and I'll check when it comes to executive.
In 37?
Yeah. Do I need
You'll
to
have a
go-
month.
Are
Do
you
I need to go through them with you guys at all?
You go through them if they're,
mention them?
Okay.
Go
if
ahead.
I didn't
know
catch
when
them,
you're
go
ready.
through them.
You sent an email. I didn't go through them. I just mentioned the ones I saw, so.
Okay, so I did find several things in 37.
Mhm.
And I did send them all to Phil. The first one was on page 12.
Mhm.
The B where it says 19 to be remitted, the Roman numeral 3, it just needs moved over a bit.
Oh, yeah,
Which,
sure enough.
under which, under D?
Yeah, it goes Roman
Oh, I
numeral
see.
1,
It doesn't
2,
line up with the others.
and
Yeah.
then 3 does not line up.
All right, I'll fix that.
And then right underneath that, you have B, and then you have C, and then you have Schedule 2. It doesn't have a number, but Schedule 1 has a number. Schedule 3 has a number, but 2 does not have a number.
Yeah, did it need a number?
Does it, I'm assuming
In
since 1 and
parentheses,
3
just
has a
before the
number.
word schedule.
All right. Well, then Schedule 2 should have a number also.
That's what I'm talking
Okay.
about. 2 should
Right.
have a 2 in front of it, and
And
Schedule
3
3
should be 3.
which is
Gotcha.
gonna change all of them for the rest of the way,
Right.
Only 2 more.
3
Yeah.
and 4. And then,
That bold right there.
the other one I noticed is on the bottom of page 13. I do believe that, nope, maybe, why am I doing that? I had to like put this out in formatting so I could see what the heck was what. And I have D should be an E down there, but I don't know if that's right.
You don't know
So
why.
A, B,
No.
No, it's,
no, it's right,
Yeah,
it's right.
that's
it's correct.
Skip that one.
The D, yeah, the D follows the C at the top of the page.
Okay.
So the next issue I found was on page 16.
Okay.
The top of the page, we have little c, little d. And little d includes Roman numerals 1 and 2,
Oh, yeah, they should
and
be
they should
lined
be
out.
indented under D.
Right, in denim, okay.
Next one was on page 17. 2AD Roman 1. You guys follow that one?
Yep, CASA fund, we were gonna
CASA
spell
funds,
that out.
CASA's supposed to be spelled
I
out.
thought I spelled it out above. Look at the top of that
Oh, we
page.
did. Okay.
So
never
I
mind.
thought if we spelled it once out, we didn't need to keep doing
You
it.
are correct.
Yeah, just once.
And I even tried to find that, so you're good.
Under I's got CASA's appointed special advocate fund.
And the last one was the sentence that we had deleted that Bill says we're keeping.
Yeah.
That's it.
Okay.
That was it for 37.
All right, I'll fix those before we forward them, but they need to be passed as amended then.
Yes, please, if I could have a motion.
Can I get a motion to pass as amended, unless anybody has something else?
Nope, my question got answered.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't see your
That's okay.
button.
I'll second it.
Previous
I'm sorry, what was the motion again?
to pass as amended,
Oh,
chapter
Um,
37.
we just
Okay.
noticed another one.
Oh. Well,
If we-
Strike
before-
that motion.
Before we, can I strike my motion to
Yes,
amend?
you can.
That's it.
Page 12.
Tim, do you want to join our committee?
Yeah.
Oh, the bold on the double
The
I?
bold on the row, on 2A, schedule, number 2, schedule 2, number 3, should be number 3, schedule 3, under A, Roman numeral 2, 2 is bolded and
Yeah,
it
it
should
shouldn't
not
have
be.
been.
I don't see any bold, but that's
Right there.
okay.
If you go from the
Oh,
bottom,
It
it
doesn't show up on my printed copy.
I did not see it, but
Doesn't really show
Tim
it
did.
does on the typed ones.
I see it.
Good eye there, Tim.
I see it.
So
At the
after,
bottom of page 12, under Schedule 3, letter A, small letter A, there are 3 Roman numerals, I.
Oh, right, the second.
The second one
bold.
is bolded.
Yeah.
so does anybody have anything else?
Okay, now do we have the list?
Can I have a motion to
No,
approve?
you need to make a motion. You don't ask me.
Okay. I'd like to make a motion to approve as amended.
Second.
Previous slogan.
Second, Trinier. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. And there we go.
So I'm just kind of wondering if it might be, we've dealt a lot with like essentially what amounted to Scrivener's errors just now, formatting errors, typos and all kinds of things like this. I'm wondering if, again, just for the sake of moving the committee along, and this is just a suggestion, that maybe if you have those types of errors, that essentially you could just bring them to Phil or bring them to me
We did.
offline, right?
did.
And we could
Yeah.
correct them offline as opposed to, devoting precious committee time to talking about essentially typos and things like that. Phil can make those corrections without having to have a motion on anything like that. And then from there, you could devote your time to actual substance,
If I could give him permission to do that, I didn't know I could.
Yeah.
If I can give him permission to do that, we do send him the email with the
Right.
corrections.
Right.
And they are just formatting errors. I mean, it's not anything
And that should
substantive.
have been the last section that happened too. The
Yeah.
reason that got screwed up so bad again, when I asked the circuit clerk's office to give me the current resolution and it got scanned, when it got scanned, instead of me retyping the whole thing, I relied on a scan. And that's when it did the crazy stuff where it made the
Right.
number 0 be the letter 0 and weird stuff like that. And the bolds going in and the words misspelled. That was the only time I had to do that for anything.
Mhm.
Everything else I took right out of American Publishing, and we should never have that problem again, except for that.
Just these
Port
couple of
fees ones.
chapters.
Right.
Okay, very good.
Can I ask you a question?
Well, yeah, but go ahead.
So do you want us, because I send them to my corrections to Phil and Jackie. Do you want me to start attaching you
Well,
too?
you can. I'm just making a suggestion. If you guys want to talk about the, typographical errors, or you want to talk about the Scriveners, that's entirely up to the, the chair and the committee from there. But I think we might be able to move faster if you focus on, rather than a misspelled word, you just bring it to our attention. We can get it corrected as opposed to a wrong word, something that's actually incorrect that would need a committee to actually vote on. We can, those would seem to be
Because I
more
can
appropriate for
start
the.
attaching you as well,
Yeah.
if you'd like.
Or to Phil,
Um,
yeah.
No, I
Let's see
get
what
it.
member Ogala has to say. Go ahead.
I just wondered, Phil, what form, what do you do this in? Do you do this in Word?
I do it in
Yes.
Word.
So my whole thing is, why don't we have somebody working with Phil? He's not a typist. Why isn't somebody?
I
who's-
have a secretary that can help me, but my problem is I'm a control person and I always like to do it myself.
Well, I get that, but I mean, if you had your secretary look at it, they're doing this stuff every day. It's like,
Yeah, they might be able to catch some of it, but same as we're
And
catching
again,
it.
it should never come up
Happen
other
again.
than
It was,
chapter
this
37.
chapter was really wonky because we've gone over this a couple of times
Yeah.
now.
And all the other ones, I take right out of American Publishing and they use the same format and everything.
Mm-hmm.
When we adopted this, we didn't use American Formats Publishing. We used what the state used and that's why the forms were different.
Okay. Well, I'm okay with going forward. If anybody sees anything that they feel is just a Scrivener's error, send it to me, to Phil, copy either Jackie or Chuck. And as long as whatever we're looking at on the day of the committee, everybody's looking at the same thing.
And that's what
the
happened here. A
important
lot of changes were, a lot of suggestions were made and changes were made.
Yeah.
These got missed by me and that's why it came before
Yeah.
you.
No worries. Okay. All right, so we're done with 37. It'll go to executive committee next month. Now we're going to chapter 38, public records. Go
No,
ahead, Phil.
38 you did last
Sorry,
time.
39, public records, yes. Fiscal affairs, there we go.
So
Wait.
this is-
No,
Where,
39 should be county policies.
where's my 39? Hold on, I lost 39. Okay, there it is. It just didn't have a paper clip in it. Yes, go ahead. Hold on.
We just approved it. It's not going this month to
No,
executive.
it'll
it'll
go in
next month.
July. It'll go in July. This month, the executive committee is looking at the changes we made last month.
Got it. Thank you.
Okay, so chapter 39, county policies, that's where we're at. And this is a lot on the division of transportation, health insurance benefits, senior citizen exemptions, sexual harassment policy, charitable organization policy. And I think this is the one where I have the question, Phil, and I'm sorry I didn't send it to you. I read it over the weekend and then we went out of town. It talks about the resolution passing, but the resolution's not included in here. Now, I'll just give an example. I'm looking at 3905, senior citizen homestead exemption. It says resolution 10-313 passed on 9/16/2010, but it's not there.
No, but I struck that out.
Oh, okay.
That's where originally
I
it was
must
based
be-
on.
Still looking at the old copy.
I struck that out and I put the state statute that authorizes you to do it. When you pass this, when this passes,
Mhm,
say whatever the July meeting is, it passes the county board.
mhm.
When American Publishing gets that, if the county clerk send it to her, they will add in parentheses, resolution blank, whatever date and number, passed it in July. And that'll be there next to the state statute. This was one that was originally passed in 2010.
Mhm.
I took all of those out because we're going to have a whole new code of ordinance. It's going to have every month, whatever sections were passed, that'll be the reference point.
Okay, well, let's start at the beginning then with 3901 and see if anybody has any concerns. Yeah, hold on. Go ahead, member Newquist.
Just one kind of dumb question. I mean, I'm assuming we repealed the no smoking policy because it's a state law. We
Correct.
don't need it. Okay.
Does anybody have anything on 3901? Okay, then we're gonna go to 3902, and that one he scratched out because that's the no pot smoking. 3903, health insurance benefits for elected retirees. Any questions?
Go ahead. You go first.
Go ahead,
Where did I come off?
Freeman. I don't know.
You're quick.
I figured out the next on thing.
So we had, I had in my notes, because we had discussed this one also, that it was something about retirees who are later elected. Health insurance benefits for retirees who are later elected instead of elected retirees. I don't know if that matters. It was in my notes.
Say it again, health insurance benefits
For
for.
retirees who are later elected.
Huh.
Yes. Okay, well, I don't understand the
You
question.
think it should say that instead of
That is-
for
it
elected
was in my
retirees?
notes, because if I'm correct, this was, and Vince, I'm gonna, hopefully you remember.
Gonna throw Vince under the bus?
Because you've retired from the county and now you're elected.
You're an elected retiree.
So you would like the word if late, just put the word later, so it says if later elected?
That was the recommendation from the previous committee. It doesn't have to be from this one. I'm just
For the title or
Yeah.
in A, B, or C?
in the title.
Oh,
Well,
I don't understand.
I don't know why we would want to change it. Hold on, press your button, please.
What's this, what is the gain of saying what you're saying? What, I don't understand.
I was just telling you what was discussed and changes that.
Do you agree with the change in
No,
the discussion?
I'm open to leaving it the way it is.
Okay, then you
Yeah.
didn't need to bring it up.
Because it does say if elected
That's my
again
thought.
in there.
It says elected retirees. To me, that kind of explains it. Member Ogala, you have something to
No,
add to the
I
discussion.
just think it's kind of confusing the way it's written. Persons retired from the county, if elected or appointed to county office, shall be allowed to either elect retiree or elect health insurance status. It's just
Or active
confusing.
health insurance status.
Or active, yeah.
Right, and I mean, that's just the way that it is. I mean, I would assume, and if you're an elected, you were a retiree. You only get the insurance for yourself as a retiree, if I'm not mistaken. So now you get elected to office, now you get the employee benefit basically again, where you can add your family to the policy. My understanding is that all of you that are elected have the option to have family members on your insurance. I don't take the insurance, so I've never studied it. Okay,
It says elected retiree. You don't retire as an elected person.
No.
you're an elected retiree. That's the title. You are elected now. You are a retiree. Okay, I don't know. Member Newquist, hold on.
So I'm assuming this refers to the situation where I worked for the county, I retired from
Sherry.
the county, like Sherry, and now I got elected to public office.
Right.
So what about saying persons retired from the county subsequently elected or appointed to county office? And I think that makes it a lot clearer.
so,
Yeah, I like that in the description on A. I just don't think we need
Okay.
to change the title.
No,
Adding
we
the
don't-
word
can change
subsequently
both.
makes sense.
Right, I don't think we need to change the title, I
It
just think we need to change
clarifies
A.
it. Sure.
Like,
Yeah, if that's okay with everybody, we'll add the word subsequently elected or appointed to county office shall be allowed to either, oops,
thank you.
just spam. Okay. And then active coverage is where you can add your family members, whereas a retiree is just for the retiree. Unless I'm mistaken. Okay. All right.
so,
Yeah,
Is
if
there
you want to
gonna-
read it to be
is there gonna be
clear.
a motion to have paragraph A say persons retired from the county if subsequently elected or appointed? And that would be the modification?
I think that's the motion that we need.
You do them all in one.
Yeah, we usually do them all at once unless you guys want to go through them individually.
No, I just wanted to make sure that's the
Yeah.
wording.
Yep, that's the wording. I think we're in agreement here. I don't see any heads saying no.
Okay.
Okay. All right, then we can go on to 3904, which has been struck. Because,
You put it in another section.
yeah, it's in the personnel section. All right, then 3905, senior citizen homestead exemption. Yeah, we only do this once. It just says that if you've applied for and got accepted for the senior citizen homestead exemption, you only have to do it once. Nobody here is Benjamin Buttons. You are not getting younger. Number 3906, sexual harassment policy. Is this the whole policy?
Yeah, it's
Because I
what the
feel like
state,
it was longer in the rules.
it's what the state requires you to
Okay.
pass this language. We do have like other rules and training, but that's not part of the ordinances.
Okay,
And I did update the phone numbers because I asked Human Resources, are these numbers correct? And they said, oh no, change whatever that one number was.
okay. And then we call it TTY now instead of TDD.
Yeah.
But if that's true, right under the red TTY,
Oh, I
there's
got it
another
there.
TDD.
All right, I'll fix that
Just the
one.
Scribners, yeah. Okay, then anybody got anything else on that chapter? Yes, Member Butler, go ahead.
So after going through the sexual harassment course
Mhm.
twice, I was surprised that it was, included a lot of groups other than just men and women or men, of a sexual nature. It also included veteran and pregnant ladies and all kinds of other things. So shouldn't we refer to this as just harassment? So that it brings a broader understanding of what we're trying to accomplish.
I
does say that in the first sentence. It doesn't say sexual, it says harassment.
yeah,
Good point.
I just know that the state statute, and Phil's gonna correct me if I'm wrong, requires annual sexual harassment training. It does not require annual harassment training.
But the.
I don't disagree with what you're
Yeah,
suggesting.
so I guess what I'm saying is I would like to make a motion that we change sexual harassment policy to our harassment policy. And that way it covers a much broader spectrum for people and they have a better understanding of what harassment really entails. Because some people would think it's a guy asking a girl out and more than once and bugging her. But it's really a lot more than that.
It is more
Harassment
than
comes
that.
in many different forms.
Mhm.
And by saying sexual harassment and not just making it a broader scope, we kind of don't allow people to see that it is more than sexual.
But when you read through these alphabets,
Mhm.
A through H, they all refer to sexual harassment. They do not refer to any other type of harassment.
Well, if you,
Go ahead, Mr. Mock.
The reason the word, they're magic words. You have to certify for certain contracts, you have sexual harassment policies. The county has general policies against harassment besides sexual harassment policies. That's why they train. But the reason the word sexual harassment is in here is so when we cite our sexual harassment policy to these state or federal government, it's real easy for them to figure out, yes, you do. We don't want to be in a situation where they said, you just have a general harassment policy. You don't have a sexual harassment policy. So the reason we use that term is because the state mandated us to use that term.
did they actually mandate us to use that term? Or
They
did
said you have to-
actually mandate us to have a sexual harassment policy?
They mandated by statute, we have a sexual harassment policy. That's why we use the magic
Correct.
word sexual harassment policy.
And so what I'm saying is by having a harassment policy that includes sexual and much more, we are further enhancing their goal. We're not making it more restrictive. We're making it more inclusive because we're involving all types of harassment. So I don't think that is, outside of our ability to do. And I just think it's a better way to approach it. If you really want to bring awareness to harassment in the workplace, you would say a harassment policy. Sexual harassment, in my experience, what I always thought was one thing. I didn't realize it was way more than that until I took the course. So the course was very informative and I just thought our policy should reflect that.
Mr. Mock, can we broaden it?
Yeah,
I'm understanding from you, we need to be able to point directly to just a sexual
right.
harassment.
If you wanted a general harassment policy, I think you need a new policy, a different additional policy that says, we have a policy against harassing short people. We have a policy against harassing tall people. We have a policy against harassing people from Indiana. I mean, anything you want to have, you can have it, but I don't think you want to eliminate or change the sexual harassment policy. You want to have an additional policy so we can still point to the upper governments, here's our sexual harassment policy. Because
And not
they may
getting
misread it and say this is not really a sexual harassment policy. This is a general harassment policy that includes some sexual harassment within it. They like,
I
They
know
want you
enough
to
about
have it.
lawyers to understand what you're saying, that we need to keep this, we can add additional. Did you have something, Member Freeman?
Yeah, I was gonna ask if, what Phil had just said is, do we need another section that says just general harassment? I'm okay with adding
We
another
can add
section.
Another section.
But I do think that this, as you said, Chair, that this whole section is specifically about sexual harassment. If we need to add another one, then I'm okay with that.
Okay. that's
But the, to scratch sexual harassment, I do think we need the word sexual in there, so.
Right. Member Newquist?
So Phil, our current wider harassment policy, like where does that live, so to
Right.
speak?
It's a very good
it
question.
lives within every elected office holder and it lives within the county executive's control of their employees.
So each county office holder has, their department has their own policy?
They control the internal operations of their office. They could
Okay.
give you pushback and say, even if you had a policy that states you shouldn't harass, they could say, well, yes, I can because I control my internal operations. The state statute, however, required us to have a sexual
Right.
harassment policy, and state statute overrules their internal operations and control.
So that's what I was kind of getting
But
at.
that doesn't mean you can't pass a harassment policy because
Right.
my experience, and I'm sure Sherry's are, 99% of any elected office holders or anybody in the county is going to follow general county policies unless they're really onerous on them. If it was something terrible like we have to report all the minutes of every cell phone usage to you, they'd say that's too much work, we're not going to do it. But any general broad policies, if you would like to have an anti-harassment policy, my belief is all the elected officials will voluntarily follow your policy because that makes it easy on them. They don't have to make their own up.
Well, that was actually going to be my question. If we passed a general harassment policy, could we enforce it? And it sounds like what you're saying is it would be voluntary, but most of the departments, obviously, I don't think they'd have any problem
Right.
following it either.
Okay, so
Yeah.
I guess what I'm
Hold on,
confused
hold
at.
on. Before we go too much further, I want to remind everybody what Phil has told us before. Each elected officer, not department, but each elected officer controls, and he mentioned it earlier, the internal operations of their office. If we pass the policy, it applies to the county board and only the board. We don't control any departments other than our own department and ourselves. We don't have employees per se. We don't control land use. We don't control health department. That's done by the county executive. I think we have an anti-harassment policy in our rules, but I'd have to go and look at the rules. That's separate and apart from the ordinance. So again, as he
But-
said, if we pass something, we would be creating some language that the other countywide elected officials could opt to just follow or incorporate into their own internal operations.
So I find it disturbing that I took the time to go through this sexual harassment training and they educated us that sexual harassment wasn't just about sex and that there are protected groups.
Mhm.
What makes you see it seem that that is a law.
It is a law.
Okay, but we don't recognize any of them
We
in our
recognize
policy
through
for our
the-
ordinances. So I just have a problem with that. If you
But-
have a general harassment policy that includes all the protected groups, then that should be sufficient. I don't understand how that wouldn't be, or our training is not correct.
Okay, Phil has already said, so I'm not going to repeat this. We need to have a standalone sexual harassment policy. So I don't want to talk about that anymore. I'm the chair. We're not going to talk about that
So,
unless you kick
so
in.
just,
We can talk.
just to be
I'm
clear,
good.
as the chair, It is proper procedure for you to run a meeting, not dictate what is said.
Well-
It is the group think of this meeting that
Does-
makes policy
Does
or
somebody want
recommends
to make,
policy
you
to
want to
the
make a motion?
executive.
Make a motion.
Okay,
And we'll
so
see
I
if
guess
it
I
passes.
would make a motion that we add a harassment policy that further reflects what we are actually taught is the law.
Okay, and add, not include in the sexual harassment, you're saying add.
A separate harassment policy.
I would second
Okay,
that.
nobody's against that. I'll second it. Nobody's against that. Can we
We
have a
can number
previous roll?
3908 after the charitable, or we can put it right after and renumber charitable.
You can flip those two.
Yeah.
We can
just
put
look-
that as 3907 and do a 3908 for charity.
I have no problem having a separate policy. That's what Phil's been telling us to do. All right, can we get a previous roll, please?
Good catch.
Anybody?
Previous.
Second,
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same side. Now,
Now,
so you
can I
working
get
something?
Yeah, can I get a motion to have chapter 39 continued till next meeting, and I'll get it out to you guys?
Yes.
motion Euclid.
Second, Butler.
Previous.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Okay,
Good job.
so we can just stop with 39. That was great. That was perfect.
Well,
No,
can we just do
Yeah, no
the
issue.
charitable organizations and the penalty stuff?
Want to keep going?
Yeah, just keep going. That way we know when we do the other one, we're pretty well through.
Can you explain that?
All right, well, let's hear from Member Ogala. Just got a light on.
So I have a question. This says county policies. It doesn't say county board policies. We create policy for the county.
Yep.
That's our job. So we can put in something that should apply to the county as a whole. If other departments or elected officials do something different and they're different than this, how would they not have to follow the county policies?
It's a good question.
It doesn't make sense to me. Otherwise say county board policies. Our ordinances are for the county as a whole.
But they've always said that they have the internal control. So
They
Phil?
do have internal control of their office. I get that. But something like harassment or sexual harassment
I don't disagree with you.
would not,
I'm just saying that this is what he talks about all
it
the
doesn't
time.
make sense to me.
Go ahead.
That's your first issue. Do not think state statutes make sense.
Well, I
I've read
don't.
There you
state
go.
statutes that were passed by the legislature where there was two different provisions with the same number in the criminal code that said two different things that were contradictory.
I
So do
believe that.
not, don't ever think it's number one, fair, or number two, that it makes sense. It's laws we have to follow, and we try to make them as fair and as sense-making as we
Right,
can.
but aren't the ordinances we pass countywide?
They're countywide ordinances, but it's no different than if you passed a countywide ordinance and said, I think all citizens should not do sexual harassment. You do not have the legal ability, because you're not home rule, to pass such an ordinance.
Yeah, I
You
don't
can
know.
only pass the ordinances supposedly that the state legislature gives us since we're not home rule.
But again, it doesn't make sense because in our ordinance here, we have this retiree health insurance benefits for elected retirees. We're not just talking about county board members.
But
We're
that,
talking about everybody.
but no, that's
No.
because the county board controls purse strings. County insurance
Is a person.
benefits is a purse string issue. It's dollars and cents.
Yes, it is.
And that's why you have to approve the contracts with the elected office holders. Because you have the dollars and cents component where they have the component of, are you working from 9 to 5 or, 8 to 3 or whatever you're doing? Or are you getting, you get to bid on your job, or do you not get to bid on your job? That's the internal control things.
And I would just add, and this goes to Mr. Butler's point, everybody takes that same harassment training. The only difference is, as I understood it, is if you're a management official versus a worker.
Right.
And so even though we don't have a policy in here, we are official policy, other than the sexual one that's required by law. We are training or teaching and expecting our employees to follow a regular harassment policy. And I don't think any of the other county-wides have opted out of this. I don't know. Does the sheriff's department come?
They can't, but here's what's going on. when you mentioned the policy, that stupid internet training, as an attorney, it was insulting to me because it did not really address the law. What you're dealing with is they used to hire an outside person. It was retired Judge Kathleen Callan, and she would give these programs in person. She didn't want to do it. She's retired. I don't even know if she's still with us. But they got another agency to do it. Well, another agency went online and found a policy that they don't have to send a person to talk to you about, respond questions back and forth with. And it's a canned program that may cover not just Illinois, but 5 other states, because we don't know where it came from. They didn't create it just for Will County. That program, I laughed at it when I saw it because it wasn't a sexual harassment program. It was a general, but that's what they gave us. It had sexual harassment components in it, which satisfied the state's requirement that you have to have once a year training, and it doesn't say how. So that's the training that the county through human resources or the executive or whoever decided was sufficient. And that's how we got that.
So for me, Phil, because I have my lights on, it's still very confusing. If we're the legislative body and we set policy for the county, how is it that certain parts are for the county and certain parts are not are only for the county board? That doesn't make sense what you said.
No, it does make sense because if it involves the
Money.
working conditions of the employees,
Mhm.
you can only control your own employees. If it's a county policy for zoning, it controls, here's the perfect example. We're Will County,
Mhm.
and we have a zoning ordinance.
Mhm.
I live in the city of Joliet. I don't follow your zoning ordinance. I follow the city of Joliet.
No, I understand that.
Well, it works the same way with elected office holders.
Mhm.
Each one of them is their own city state.
Mm-hmm.
So you can't make it for them.
So I didn't interpret us as doing something like that, but I would think like the health insurance benefits policy, we put that applies to everybody.
It does.
But
Because
that's a
that's
purse string.
economic. It has dollars behind it.
We control the purse strings. All right, the next person in line is Member Freeman.
So
It's a computer tells me.
would
I
it
don't-
be wise to maybe, when you create this new section, to like put in there something about departments can,
No,
okay,
no, I'm not gonna do that. They may, I'll look up some law. It's gonna probably look a lot like what the provision above it was for sexual harassment. But it's gonna talk about general harassment. It's gonna talk about protected classes. And it's probably gonna also talk about non-protected classes being protected because the Supreme Court just came up with the decision that the white male person that got passed over for a job, no, it was a female, white female person got passed over for a job because of a gay individual, they have the right to sue under discrimination policies too. Well, it's not looking very far. They're saying they could be discriminated against. You shouldn't go in and joke with your neighbors at work about married couples. You know what I mean? All that should be left outside the workplace. Just like you shouldn't joke about people that live together, call people bad names, or unwed children, call them bastards. Any of these things. And we can have a general policy that the county hates all types of harassment. We don't want any harassment.
Okay.
And you write it up, but again, if you don't have an enforcement mechanism, who has to enforce your policy is the elected officer in each of their offices, not you.
Okay,
So.
all right, Member
I'm-
Butler, you're next.
I'm confused. So as far as sexual harassment goes, every department has to follow that.
Because there's a state statute on it.
Okay. And then there are other groups that are protected under law?
There's groups that are protected under law based on case law, but there's no state statute requiring us to have a policy against it. Just as there's no, put it this way, every one of our motor vehicles, I hope, has airbags in them. We don't have a policy that says that, but the federal government has a
Okay.
policy.
I got you. I understand what you're saying now, and I gotta say, I'm a little frustrated because I took that course thinking that that was the law, and I memorized it, and then that became part of my, my reality. And what you're telling me now is that that stuff isn't based on the law. That a lot of that stuff is just
Good
conjecture.
practice. No, it's good practices.
Well, but it's not true, because a lot of it I found offensive, but I accepted it and took it as law when it's not.
And, and again, that's why it's training, but that's why there's no feedback. If you had feedback and said to them, they may have to admit to you that they're wrong on this. I mean, but it's a canned training. It's only training.
Well, training means something when you train a bunch of people and they believe it to be lawful, and then they act on it accordingly when they didn't agree with it.
Okay, well, that I can't do anything about at this point, and I guess we can try to find out who picked out the training.
It's either
Was it the
HR
personnel,
It's probably
HR?
HR.
Okay, and we can voice our objection that they get a real person instead of a canned machine. I can tell you at the township, we did 1 year with a real person, and then the next year with a canned machine, and then the next year with a real person. That way there was an opportunity for feedback, since you have to do this each and every year.
You know,
I mean, and that's again, state statute. Member Williams.
Well, I just wanted to say, as far as sexual harassment is concerned, regardless of what you think as, gender or whatever, it's just against the law to sexually harass anybody. So it doesn't have to be written down that you can't, this group, that group, the other group. You can't sexually harass anybody. That's
Right.
all.
Who's number 5? Go ahead, Ms. Hickey.
Thank you so much, Chair. Correct me if I'm wrong, but this is kind of the best advice to make sure that the county doesn't have suits that are successful against them for harassment, as well as just creating a better work environment. Is that?
right, it's definitely a better work environment.
Okay.
Number two, it's like we have an ethics ordinance. The
Mhm.
state passes some statutes and says, then all units of local government must pass similar language.
Okay.
And then they said all state units of government must have a sexual harassment policy on file. So this is our sexual harassment policy. They have not gone as far enough to say all units of government have to have a harassment policy on file. But the reason they put that harassment stuff in there is because there's certain lawsuits and court cases where governments get sued because Joe's harassing Bob or somebody, and it's wrong. So they're trying to train people in the training not to do it. But it's not really just a sexual harassment policy. Again, that video that everybody watched may not even be Illinois specific. It may be federal specific, that it may pass for a lot of states.
Sure.
So
And that's why there's extra in there.
before we go any further, I want to ask the maker of the motion, Mr. Butler, do you still want to go forward with a harassment policy separate from the sexual harassment policy? And if you do, and if it's the intent of this body to do that, obviously you want it to only be about laws that are approved in the state of Illinois, I would assume.
Yeah.
Hold on, turn your mic on. I can't turn it off. Okay, I think it's on now.
Yeah, my original intention was that, based on our training, that all that information was not included in this, but now that I know that our training isn't actually
state
representing real
law.
laws, then I do not want any of that in there.
So, I don't know what we just spent 25 minutes on something,
But-
so are we moving forward with it or not? Go ahead, Mr. Munn.
Some of the training though was accurate in it, just not all of it. And again, you guys can have a policy. You can have a lot of policies that you think these are good feel policies. Like you could have a policy that says we want everybody to open the door for their neighbor coming through the door. That don't mean there's no punishment if you don't do it. But you can have policies that you think are appropriate as a gesture of education for the public or goodwill or for
Being
the
a good
employees.
employer.
Being a good employee, good co-employee, which is no different than every office holder should have those for their own people. But as a county voice, you can say that.
So at the next meeting, can I propose an amendment for a policy based on our training, but minus some of
I
the stuff that
think
might not be
that's
true?
What Phil was gonna bring
What I'd ask you to
forward.
do is before it's send it
I
to
just want
me.
I just
will.
want to be clear
I will.
in that you only want it to be things that are covered by state of Illinois law.
Well, but none of it is really, except for the sexual part. But the other stuff he said was not.
Well, but there's, it
Parts
is
of
and it
it
isn't. There's
are.
no statute on it.
I will go over it. I will present somebody. Everybody can present what they want. And then you could temper it with,
Sure.
with making sure it includes any laws.
Right, and,
Okay.
and that, and when you talk laws, it's not just statutes, it's also court interpretations. And you can get
You
that.
know what, our chief of staff just suggested something, is this the committee to do that? I don't know.
Well, yeah.
We're supposed to be reviewing these ordinances, making sure they're up to
We're
date.
the ones.
based
who do
on-
group
excuse
thing.
me,
Then we
I'm
propose
speaking.
it to the executive.
This is the committee that's supposed to be going through the existing ordinances, making sure they're up to date. We're not supposed to be creating new ordinances. I don't.
I believe
Okay,
that.
so that's
we
my
are.
question.
I think you could.
Okay.
I
then-
think you
Bend
could
and
if you
correct
feel
and
we're
add.
deficient.
Okay.
This
I
is
just-
where the work is done.
I want to be clear
No,
about
legally
what
you could.
our charges, because I don't think I've ever received anything in writing that said what the job of this committee was. Now, maybe there was something when it was created that was in writing back in the minutes, but,
I think it wasn't it on the top of the schedule there.
okay, member Newquist.
I believe we are allowed to create new ordinances
Okay.
if we find that we're deficient. But speaking to the general harassment policy, I'm generally in favor of adding that section. However, I think we really need to be mindful that it's not really enforceable. And I'm not quite sure how we handle that. I mean, does it make sense to pass an ordinance that we can't enforce? I mean, from a human standpoint, I'm like, yes, we should have, a policy. But if legally we don't have a leg to stand on, what's the point?
It's a good question, but we voted to do it, so that's why I went back to Mr. Butler to make sure that this is still what he wanted to do. Go ahead.
We can't enforce.
Mr.
I'm
Logan.
after him.
No, you're the vice chair. You can go
All right,
next.
so Phil, so correct me if I'm wrong. If we write a policy for harassment, we find out that a certain elected department's harassing, we can actually not approve their budget.
That's your only control. Well,
That's perfect.
you
So
can
we do
never
have
not
enforcement. We
approve
do
their
have
budget. You can never not approve their budget. You can limit their budget.
Slice and dice it.
We can slice it up then?
Yeah, you can slice it down. You can say you're wasting money here because of this and we're gonna not give you this money. But you can't ever eliminate it because they have statutory duties and you have a statutory duty to fund them to a sufficient level. But that's the
But we
issue.
still could hold something back then.
Yes,
Okay.
that would,
We have some enforcement.
yeah, that's always been your enforcement,
Yeah.
money.
Never used, but we
Okay. Mr. Butler.
So if anyone wants clarification, if you look at the top of your agenda in bold,
Mhm.
it'll state exactly what the committee is, purposes for having it.
Thank you. I will take a look at that.
Oh.
Because my understanding was personnel issues were the purview of the executive committee. When we dissolved the personnel committee, those duties went to the executive committee, and this sounds like a personnel issue. But if you believe, based on the language, that we could do it, then I think we do it. We already passed the motion to do that. So can we now move forward? 39.07, charitable organizations policy. It was pointed out to me in letter B on the second line, resolution number 13-98. That was mentioned down below and we
If-
scratched it
if-
out.
No, I
that okay?
scratched it out down below. On that mention, if you think it's appropriate, I'll get that one and just put the language in here.
I would really like the language in the ordinance, not just a resolution number.
All right, and the reason, that's fine.
Okay. Does everybody else kind of agree with
Yeah,
that?
I agree.
We shouldn't have to go chase the resolution. It should
Quick
just be in here. Go ahead, Mr. Logan.
Phil, what is the purpose of this policy?
I have no idea.
Well, I can go back
Is
to,
it for vetting purposes?
Yeah, it's for vetting purposes. Now, when I say I have no idea, I have an idea, but it may not be accurate. I gotta tell you that up front. For years and years and years and years, the state's attorney has given advice to the county board that you can't use government funds for non-government purposes by giving them to charity. The county board liked to give money to charities. The county board eventually decided, well, we're going to have this vetting process to make sure that it only goes to legitimate charities. State's attorney's office never wanted to try to go to court to push that button to see who was right and who was wrong. And so that's how my memory is,
I can add to
how
that.
this happened.
So when the landfill was created, county board at that time, District 8, Herb and Denise, basically, got a portion of the waste management landfill money that they could give out in their own district. And they created a policy that then would be looked at because they got to give this money away as part of the deal for creating the landfill. And I don't remember all the details about it, but it was for like a 10-year period and then it was supposed to be gone. The funds were expended, but they had no policy. So they wanted to make sure that there was a procedure for vetting, as Phil mentioned, so that Member Winfrey, Member Brooks didn't just give this money to any old 501c3 that they had just created in their own name in their own backyard. Not that they would have done that, but they had to have a vetting policy. They felt it was important at that time, the board did, so that that money that they did have the right to give away went to organizations that had been vetted and not just their friends. Member Newquist, go ahead.
So wouldn't this apply to like the opioid settlement money or the
That's by federal
cannabis
statute.
money?
Yeah, there's a statutes on those things. On the opioids, it's very clear. It says it can only be go to these uses. But you are correct in that there is like we've given money to a 501c3. But it's so far, the ones that we've given it to have been people that have gone through that vetting process as a part of like the ARPA fund.
Okay, but basically, in theory, the statute allows us to give money to only certain types of organizations, but they don't vet the particular organizations. So this would kind of serve that role.
Well, we vetted them through the ARPA process, which
Right, but-
probably was a lot more detailed than this. Again, the policy's not in here, so I couldn't read
Right,
it.
but, and also going forward, though, we don't have the ARPA money. We're not vetting people, based on ARPA criteria anymore. So, going forward, if we have a 501(c)(3) apply and no one's ever heard of them, we probably want to vet them somehow to see if,
I think they're still using those same criteria, making sure that they had filed all their reports.
right, that's fine. But what I'm saying is that they wouldn't be going through the ARPA review. So we would have to do our own review.
But they were using the same standards. is
Right,
what
but
it's
that's
saying.
fine, but that's why I think we.
I don't know what
need
these
this in
standards
there.
are. It's not included.
Well, I think we should
Where are
include
they?
them.
Well, that's what we just discussed, that he would put the actual language of the policy in here.
And I'm not
Yeah,
from a
that's what
legal
he just said.
perspective, you can keep this in here. I mean, it makes sense.
Mhm.
That doesn't necessarily mean you're ever going to use it, but it's better to have standards than no standards. That way you
Right.
don't get attacked in
No,
the
I
press.
agree, but
There
we
is no
we
standard
can't
here.
see what it is because the resolution's not included. But
I'll-
you
I'll
said you're
put the
gonna put
language
it
in.
in there, so we'll be able to see the language before we vote on it. The
What-
next up is
what I-
member, oh, go ahead.
One thing, I'm going to take B out totally and just under B, put whatever the language was
Put
from
the
the other-
resolution there. Yes.
all the words.
Member Freeman. you
Okay,
were
so
next.
I think you just answered my question. You're not gonna put the whole resolution, just the
The good
nuts and
part.
bolts of it, correct?
Yeah, the nuts and
Okay.
bolts.
Thank you.
Okay, next up.
And I'm not going to reference it either because this will be our policy then in here. We won't need the old one.
Member Williams.
Also, just for information, when, there used to be fair share,
Yeah.
if you did not want to contribute that to the union, you could give it to a charitable organization. So that may be part of the reason why this is in here as well, but it's still for vetting purposes, so.
Who decides
The
that?
individual,
I'm sorry.
the union member, or the non-union person that's represented by the union. But I don't even know if they do that anymore.
No, I said when there was fair share. There's
Yeah.
no fair share anymore. but
Yeah,
That
no,
was
but
just
we said
information.
you're either in or you're not. It's up to you as an individual. Okay, Member Butler.
So you're saying that this was created because of it's a byproduct of when they started the landfill?
Yes.
So I just have a problem with giving anyone person from a district the ability to give money to charitable
Okay, but
organizations within
That's over.
so I mean, I don't like the whole thing. I think it shouldn't even be allowed. There should never be a case where that happens.
The,
Go ahead.
the reason it was there, and again, I was involved in the landfill talks originally, but we relied on Chuck Helston, outside counsel. I dealt with him a lot. There was some state statutory provisions that formatted the landfill process that says some of the money go to these type of public interest agencies, not just government, because the landfill impacts the citizens around the landfill, and this is a way to do it. So that's why they created this mechanism, again, based on the state rules.
So it was placed on two people, but it would still be the whole board that would make those
Yeah,
decisions.
But yeah,
Well, I mean, it's a big difference.
no,
Yeah.
it was their district. I don't think they got to hand the money out personally. They made the recommendations and everybody followed their recommendations because it was their district.
Right.
Yep.
But in the end, the board decides.
Yes,
The board.
that's what happened.
That's a big distinction.
And it's over.
Yeah.
So now this would apply to potentially to organizations like you mentioned through the opioid fund or through the cannabis fund, that they would need to be vetted if they were a charitable organization, just like we vetted them through ARPA. Member Ogala.
Is it possible for staff to get us resolution 1398 so we could see it?
Yeah, we're gonna
Oh, yeah.
get it because we're not voting on this today.
We're not voting on this.
No, it's going next month and
Yeah.
that's what I'm gonna do is
It'll
call
come
staff to
back
get
to
it.
us because we're gonna put in a policy about harassment. He'll also bring it back to us with the nuts and bolts portion of the charitable organization policy. And at that time, we'll be able to review it and make a decision. All right, anything else on the charitable? We'll go on to penalty.
That's basic.
Okay, then that is the end of this. And again, we'll talk about it all over again next month.
We need a
Yes, Mr.
motion
Rock.
to table or whatever you want to call it,
Postpone till next
postpone
month.
till next month.
Motion request.
Second Logan. Second Logan.
All in favor, say aye. Those opposed, same sign. This will be postponed until next month. Okay, chapter 40. We have 45 minutes. Think we can do it? Good luck. Okay, let me go find my chapter 40.
40's got how many pages?
All right.
14 pages.
If we want to start with 40.01, just gives the fiscal year. I don't think any of us can change that. Although, if you want to, apparently we have that ability. 40.02 depository banks. And as you know, those come through our committee, through our executive committee, whenever he wants to add another bank. And we just added another one, I think, last month because we have to follow the rule about 75% of the monies, whatever. Any questions on 02? 03, prevention of over expenditures. I had a lot of questions on this, just based on my time on the board. I remember when the sheriff's department, and again, maybe this is because it's wages, they would go over budget hundreds of thousands of dollars each year. And this kind of alludes to the fact that the auditor has the right to stop anybody pre-spending money before it's spent. Does that just not apply to wages? Go ahead.
Just does not apply to wages because
Okay.
federal statutes on if you earn your wages,
make
you're
sure.
entitled to pay. But if it applies to squad car badges, desk chairs,
All that kind of stuff.
but it does not
Physical
apply
items.
to wages because you can't rip off your employees.
Right. Okay. Any other questions? Hold on. Go ahead, member Freeman.
Very quickly, why is this one removed? E, the finance committee of the county board shall be instructed to indicate ...
Because again, the internal control of operations is in the office holders. They spend their own money. When this was originally passed,
We had
the-
regular.
you approved every individual expenditure
Mhm.
for the whole county.
Yep.
So instead of having the county board do it, they assigned the finance committee to get it off their agenda.
Is that cleared up for you? Okay, anything else in that section, anybody? Okay, 40.04 purchase orders, contracts. Just. There was a section. Find it. B, under contracts. You struck out that part, who shall record the amounts of the contracts against the proper appropriation and check with the proper appropriation for over expenditures before the contracts are placed with the contractor. Is there a reason we struck that?
Yeah, that was again, because we don't do it.
Well,
I talked to the auditor and I asked about it.
Mhm.
And again, it has to do with internal controls of operations. The auditor can't, an office holder doesn't need to go to the auditor to say, approve the type of paper I want to purchase for my computer. All they can do is approve whether it's got cash on hand or not.
Got you. Okay, very good. Member Butler.
So where does that procurement policy that they just voted on, we voted on, how does that fit into this?
That, I was wondering that same. thing.
That's for countywide procurements for major purchases. So I need 10 PCs in my office, doesn't go through the county procurement. It could.
So
But if we need a huge mainframe, and there's no dollar, well, it's considered major assets, minor assets. I don't know what the breakdown is.
29,000 or
I really don't know what it is.
29,000,
But it's
999.
based on well, if it's based on 29,999, it doesn't have to. That's because over $30,000, there's a state statute that a whole another set of rules apply to. So if it only applies to purchases over 30,000, that makes sense to me. But that's for major purchases in the county. And you can't bid string either. And that was the bidding rules. Under 30,000, you don't need a bid, over you do. And you can't bid string, which means I'm gonna use the sheriff because I always use the sheriff. I'm the sheriff and I'm buying 10 squad cars, but I'm gonna buy them one at a time because I can get them for $29,000. They don't let you do that. That's called bid stringing. Because at the end of the 10, you're way over $30,000. But those are some of the things you're dealing with. I think it's fine, the language that it is. I went through the auditor and I went through the county clerk about how we do our contracts and what we do. And for these purchase orders and contracts, I think it's sufficient.
Okay. In that same section, number 3, under contracts, it says the Equal Employment Opportunity Clause required by the State Fair Employment Practices Commission. Is that the actual name of the group right now?
I'll double check it, but it was, I thought.
I don't know, just seemed kind of odd. Might be the right name.
I'll check.
Why does EEOC come to my head?
I know, that's what I thought it would have been, the State of Illinois Equal Employment Opportunity Commission.
EEOC, isn't that what it is?
I don't think they're called the State
Oh.
Fair Employment
I'll check.
Practices Commission, but I don't know. You and I are on the same
Yeah.
page on that.
State
one.
Fair, I think of like festival.
Yeah, me too. That's exactly what I read. I thought it was the fair.
I'll check on that.
All right, then 40.05 inventory of office equipment and furniture. And I know we've had a lot of discussions about this because inventory is the thing. But hold on, Member Freeman.
So, I have, as you said, there was a big discussion. My notes are like all over the place on this one. But it says in red that it's going to the executive committee. And
Yes.
I thought it was going to go to the county board chief of staff. Is there a reason that we want it to go to the executive committee? Or the chief of staff who then can release it to us all?
Originally was auditor
Correct.
and then you guys changed it to executive committee at some
But in my notes, I have it as it's supposed to go to the chief of staff. And now it's in
I can
red
tell you
as
that, I can
executive.
tell you this, it's not auditor because they don't want it. They don't keep
Right.
it. They don't do nothing with it.
So I guess my question is, does it need to go to the executive committee or can it go
But
to the
it's-
county board chief of staff to be dispersed to the members?
I'm not sure it should go to either. This says each office holder and they can have internal control of
But
their.
it says is requested.
Right, to make it.
Okay.
That's fine.
They're requested. You're requesting them to do something for
But
you.
then-
Hopefully they will do it. And if they don't, that's where you say in your budget, you're not helping us, we're not helping you.
Yeah, who does the requesting? I guess that would be the chief of staff. There
No,
has to
the-
be a person.
That was the big question. It was.
Hold on. one
The big
person.
question was, if the auditor doesn't want it, who does? And in my notes I have, it was to go to the chief of staff. And then he could give it to us all because the executive committee didn't really think that they needed to have a discussion
But
about
the
it, so.
reason it was written this way, my memory of this discussion was you thought you should have it, and I said the only legal way for you to have it is for you to have it for purposes of preparing the budget. That's why it was June of each year, because in June of each year, you're working on getting the budget ready to be passed later. And if they don't want to tell you what equipment they have, or it's hard for them to come in and say, I need new phones when they already got 1,000 phones and they're only got 300 employees.
Well, this doesn't say June. It just says an up-to-date list at all
This is June.
times.
No,
It does say June.
executive committee before the June meeting
Oh, okay, guess. I
each
missed
year.
that.
So there's an up-to-date
Right there.
list at all times, and an up-to-date list at all times is periodically for your
Okay,
budgetary purposes. But the reason I used executive committee is because that is an entity of the county board, not an employee of the county board. They deliver it to your committee. You just turn around and say, chief of staff, deal with this.
okay, that sounds fine. Member Richmond.
So we're leaving chief executive committee? Okay.
Member Richmond.
So this all goes back to having an asset management, asset tracking type system software and the ability to easily identify through barcoding or anything like that. I've only been here a short period of time, but I've never seen anything like that, even on our IT equipment.
We started years ago, a few years ago, I don't know how long, Member Ogala will maybe remember the exact year, at least getting like a system in place for repairs of things and replacements of things and having some idea, but you're right. I don't think they ever did the barcoding thing. And I know in the federal government and in the state government, they put a barcode on every piece of equipment. It gets scanned in and that's,
Well,
all
on-
we ever see is the list of things they want to get rid of.
On top of that too is you attach all your, maintenance contracts and service agreements and all that kind of stuff. So that this way we don't have the fiasco like we did a year and a half ago with $250,000 worth of Cisco equipment being out of maintenance and having to do take out a contingency or that. So, I think this is something that really needs to be addressed.
And I think, I don't know if we can address it because this sounds like we need to get a contract. Sounds like the executive committee needs to go into some sort of ordering a procurement program or, something. Go ahead, Mr. Mayor.
Sherry will back me up on this. When we first were at the county, every one of these items, every typewriter, every calculator, every desk, every chair, if it was not a consumable like papers or pencils, had a serial number.
Yeah.
And here's what happened. That was back when the county board approved every individual purchase
So
of
when it went
everything,
to
and
the
the county
individual
board ran
ones.
everything.
Yeah.
Then you have a county executive now. You have internal operations controls of every office holder now, which removes the centralized
System.
system. And that's, it's the law of unintended consequences. An unintended consequence came that every office holder should keep track of what all their inventories are. And that's why you request every office holder to give you the info to encourage them to at least keep track. Because I'm sure there's some that don't keep track of anything if they don't want to.
I think if we invested in a system and got it going
They-
at the county
they'd
board
probably
level,
use it.
they would probably use it. Go ahead.
We have a system, an asset tracking system. I know this because we purchased back in the clerk's office, when I was in the clerk's office, we purchased millions of dollars worth of equipment, and all of that equipment had to have a barcode attached to it and then, recorded with the executive's office.
So she does.
There is an asset tracking system, yes.
But it's only for major assets from what I
Major,
understand.
correct.
And I don't even remember what that dollar amount is, but it's pretty high.
So the new chairs we got for the county boardroom.
They're not expensive enough to be tracked.
Okay.
Wow.
Jim, I don't know if, we want to make a motion at executive to try to get something going, but it sounds like
Maybe what we should do is have
expand the one
have
we
the
have.
clerk's office present what it is they have
Yeah.
and figure out if it's something that's licensable and that we can actually just expand on that license. I don't know. I mean,
Yeah.
Is this,
Member Ogalla?
Yeah, so our old
I don't think so.
finance system, which was done in Bradstreet, you remember that, like 700 years ago, black and green screens. When we converted to D365, it allowed the capability of that. And if you can ask Karen from finance, she'd be able to tell you, but we have the ability to go down and have everything in there now with a serial number, whatever they tag it with, so that they know what it is. That system has the capability to have all the assets in it.
Then I think we probably need to bring this up, as I mentioned, at executive committee to the speaker and maybe see if he's interested in, investigating what our policy is right now and
And you're
if we
you're
want
gonna have
change
to
it.
get probably an elected office holder willing to underdo those duties. Now, the county executive, you can give them additional duties. I think you have the legal ability to give them that duty because they do have to follow every other stuff you tell them. Traditionally it was the auditor, and from me talking to the auditor's office, they quit doing it because it was too much work for them and they didn't want to do it anymore. I mean,
Well, and their staff is really small now
Right,
compared
right.
to even when I
but
first got.
the
on.
auditor used to send somebody to everybody's office and check once a year, all these things, are they where they're supposed to be?
I think if we make it known that this system exists and we have a policy about what the dollar amount is, like you mentioned, it's only these major, big, expensive things. I mean, that's a policy we can set at the executive committee level and tell the county executive we'd like her to follow it. And we can let the other countywide elected officials know it's available. We'd encourage them to use it. These are the dollar amounts where you need to start tracking things. I mean, we can lead the parade. We maybe can't force it, but
I didn't realize that there was any discretion at the clerk's office back in the time. We purchased the equipment, the county board authorized this funding. We purchased the equipment, we took in the equipment, and within a certain time frame, we had to get it tagged and then a list of that up to the executive's office to purchasing.
I need you to do that.
No,
Right.
or you just did it on your own either way.
No, somebody had to tell you.
Yeah.
That's why the lights don't.
Your light's not on, dear.
That was the downfall of the old financial system, didn't have that. The new system, D365, has asset management in it. And I believe that that's the case. Karen from finance will be able to answer that
Check
question.
into that and find out
That
exactly.
was a whole conversation.
Because maybe it automatically asks the purchaser to do something at a certain dollar amount. Maybe we have the ability, Mr. Richmond, to change that dollar amount to say $50 or $300 or whatever. So that automatically, anytime you bought something, it would clue you in to inventory it and put it in the system. I don't know.
Karen's gonna know.
This is where we need to ask some questions. Member Newquist, go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna say the previous company that I worked for, the startup, we had a system, we were building workstations and we barcoded everything, even like the smallest component of the workstation. But where you have to be careful on the dollar amount is like, let's say we have a dollar amount of 20,000 and we order $30,000 worth of paper. You certainly don't want to barcode every ream of paper. I mean, we really need somebody from purchasing, and from, we would probably need it, in my mind, we probably need some sort of, committee of the people who would actually be doing the work to figure out what made the most sense and present an option to us. But I think it's a good goal, and the software has gotten so much better. It's vastly improved from what it was, say, 10 years ago even.
So do we want to leave this the way that it is for now and maybe just delve further into this by talking with the speaker?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm just a little confused at the moment. So you are gonna make a motion to change the executive committee in this to the, no, you're not.
We're
Okay.
just gonna leave it.
Okay, leave it as it is.
Yeah, we're gonna leave
Yeah.
it.
So we should be getting those
With any
this
luck.
Thursday then.
We're gonna leave this the way that it is with the idea that between the chief of staff, myself, will speak out to the speaker and say, you know, what is our current system? Have them talk to finance, have them talk to purchasing, find out what we're doing, if anything, so that we can, because like the new squad cars, do they get inventory? Do they?
Should.
put in the
They do.
system? They should. Yeah, they should. Okay, all right, so that ends that section unless somebody has anything else. We're on 40.06, which we scratched because we don't have a tax collector.
Well, no, you scratched it because the Illinois Supreme Court said that was unconstitutional a long time ago and nobody ever took it out of our ordinances.
Well, there you go. 40.07, authorization for tax lawsuits. Anybody have any questions about that? Fees for document copies, any questions? Petty
Those are-
cash funds? Oh, you got something?
I was just gonna say, double check, these are our current costs.
Oh, yeah. Petty cash funds, minimum of $100 will be advanced to each department. They actually have that?
That's the dollar amount that they do for petty cash is 100. It used to be 50 and the auditor said, no, they upped it to 100.
Then we've got the sheriff's department impress fund. and We've scratched that. for
It's
some
been
reason.
abolished.
Interest on undisturbed taxes, same thing.
Same thing.
The next one's voiding of longstanding county issued payment checks.
And I talked to the treasurer on this and used some recommendations. And when I talked to them, I wanted to match the state statute for unclaimed property.
Mhm.
Because right now they have money that should have went to people when I-80 was built in the 1960s, still sitting in the treasurer's office. And the auditor still has to audit those. And once we get this passed, they'll be able to wrap all those up and send them down to the state treasurer. And the state treasurer will put them on cash dash or whatever it's called.
Yeah.
And then the people can get their money.
Yeah, that's interesting. We had this problem at the township. We had money that was like 10 years sitting in the bank. Nobody got cashed their check. And we realized that, you know, you're supposed to turn this over to iCash, I
Oh,
believe
that's
is
what
the
it's
name of
called,
the
okay.
program. So we did the investigating and I assigned a staffer and we went back 3 years, anything older than 3 years, we wrote a check out to the state and gave them the money and wiped it off of our books so we don't have to account for it anymore. It actually makes things a little easier. You lose that interest that you might have gotten on that money that was sitting there in your account, but if it's not a huge amount.
And our treasurer keeps them in non-interest bearing accounts because they didn't want to deal with, are
having
the
to
people
account for it
entitled to the interest? Are we entitled to the interest? So they kept it.
Separate. We
Just
didn't
separate.
do that at the
Yeah.
township, but we do now. We're turning it over to the state. Member Ogala.
So in the past, we used to get a report from finance department at like once a year, but these were all the old outstanding checks. We haven't seen that in years, but we did get that. That would be something, maybe the finance committee could say, we'd like to see, what is our situation with that? Where do we sit? Because we did get that in the past a while ago.
Yeah, I know at the township, they could see it every month on the bank statements, all the check on, you know, on cash checks. But, okay. All right. I didn't know we had to do an ordinance to make them do this, but if that's what.
Oh, no, we have an ordinance and we wanted to change the words to make it easier for them to do this.
Right.
The treasurer asked well, I talked to Julie Shatina, one of the deputy treasurers, but she asked that we put this language in here because they also are dealing, and there's a second half of this that I'll tell you about. They got a ton of them that they're holding pursuant to court order.
Mhm.
The state's attorney's office is going to go back to those court cases and get them a court order to enter it and send it to the state treasurer.
Okay.
That's the other half of it. But they asked it to be in the ordinance just so everybody's clear.
So it's covered. Okay. Yes. Go ahead, Member Freeman.
So A says, We are to the voided part, right?
Yeah.
A says void if not cashed within 90 days.
Mhm.
B says 3 years after that date will void the check.
Will be
Why?
actually avoided.
Pardon?
They'll still cash it within 90 days. After 90 days. They're putting that language on there merely as directory to get,
says-
encourage them to cash them.
It says it right there.
But they will, if they take it to the treasurer and say, I need my money, they'll give them the money.
Yeah. The purpose is to encourage them to cash it right away.
And for-
It's usually in red ink. It's kind
Yeah,
of-
because I know I've taken checks sometimes that are a couple days past the 90 days and the bank is like, I'm sorry, this is over the 90-day window.
Some banks approve them, some don't, is what the treasurer told me.
Yeah, and you can always contact the.
All right.
But after the 3-year period, they
they are
disavow
supposed to
them.
be.
And because I guess there's a state statute that said after 3 years, they're void on their own. And they just have the money, then they'd have to issue a new check. And if a person has trouble at their bank, they'll trade the 90-day old check and give them a new one.
Okay. That's it.
Okay. Everybody good? All right. 40.13 property sales tax. Any questions? Okay, 40.14.
I do have some in here because I left my light on just
Yep,
for it.
go ahead.
The county treasurer on A should be established. A fund or established.
Shall
Should I say-
establish.
or Shall established. I think the fund is already established. I'm assuming it's already been established, so I think it should be ED instead of shall,
Wait, no.
huh?
How about the county treasurer has established, although technically you guys established it.
Well, then let's just say the county treasurer established. a
Okay.
special
All right,
fund.
county treasurer
And
established.
then in B, the county clerk, instead of B, it should be shall.
Shall be.
Shall be.
authorized
All right, shall be.
To charge an additional $2 fee.
That was it.
Okay. Anything else? 40.15 Historic Preservation Commission Fund. We have one. I don't know if there's any money in it, but we have a commission.
You have it and the fund is controlled through land use. They do, it's part of
Yeah,
your
they do
budget.
the meetings and stuff. I just didn't know if there was any money in it.
It's minimal.
Fee for non-sufficient fund checks. Go ahead.
I do think that since like such a small population actually uses the checks, we should probably tell them what an NSS check is. Spell
Oh,
out non-sufficient funds.
Yeah,
We've been
Do you
doing
want it in the
throughout.
title or do you want
In
it
the
in the
title.
words?
in the title.
That's fine. Somewhere it needs
Okay.
to say.
Anything else on that? Okay, 40.17, payment of real estate taxes by credit card. My neighbor went to pay his real estate taxes on his business and his house, and it was $30,000. They wanted to charge a $500 fee. Yeah, apparently it's based on a percentage.
2.5%.
So he drove down here and paid the taxes in person. His secretary had forgotten to mail the envelope, so he didn't want to be late, so he was just gonna quickly pay it by credit card. When he realized what the fee was gonna be, he drove down. Yeah, yeah, the credit card companies charge quite a bit to move
And it's
money around.
all units of government have that problem.
Do we have the ability legally at the state level, at the county level, to accept wire transfers like Zelle, for example,
Should be able to do an ACH.
and
They-
any kind of ACH for property
They
tax?
do some ACHs because I know mortgage companies ACH the money, but I don't know if they do like Zelle and small ones like that. But I know if it's a
30
bank,
grand to me wasn't small, but I
No.
hear you.
but no, they do ACH.
So we could link up with Plaid, couldn't we?
You'd have to ask the treasurer that. You'd have to ask the treasurer that. They determine how they take their payments.
Maybe we get our chief of staff to find out from the treasurer if there's some way we can,
If we just
Do
jump into
this.
Plaid, Plaid does
But
everything.
the stuff like credit cards, by law, they can't take less than the full tax amount. So
understood. Understood. They have to charge the fee that the credit card company is charging. I'm just wondering if there's another way around that for like an emergent, especially an emergency situation where, you know,
We should be
for
able to do
whatever
wire-
reason,
We should be able to do wire transfers.
yeah, or wire transfer.
Well,
Go
Debit
ahead,
card.
Member Newquist.
I think you can use, because I pay my taxes online, and you can generally use an electronic check, which I believe the fees are different, but the whole credit card processing fee is such a giant ripoff for debit cards. Credit cards, yes, there are some credit cards, depending on the type of card that it is, could charge up to 4%, you know, on their end, but
Cash is-
debit cards get charged a minuscule, and I know this because I was in the payment industry. Debit cards get charged a minuscule amount by by Visa and MasterCard. So it's a giant ripoff for debit cards, but nobody distinguishes online.
Okay.
Because
Hold on, let me turn back on.
Because debit cards charge a really small percentage. The fee's very different that Visa and MasterCard impose for debit cards versus credit cards.
So you're saying if someone paid with their debit card, they would still be charged the same fee?
Yes, that's everywhere though. That's not just us, that's
Well, because
everywhere.
The systems don't differentiate, like when you're at the
They
cash
could.
register at-
They
at
do.
Jewel, at Jewel, you can hit an extra button. Instead of putting in your PIN, you hit the green button again, and then it'll take it as a charge versus your normal debit.
Yeah.
But I don't think you could do that with online.
I think what happens online is that, right, they probably run everything as a credit, so that's probably why. I'm just, sorry,
Yeah,
I'm
'cause I
being a
know
little
some
off topic
places-
here.
Some places, they'll ask you if it's gonna be a debit or
Mhm.
a credit because the debit is gonna be cheaper. Otherwise, they have to charge you the big fee. So maybe we should look into that.
That's what I'm gonna ask the chief of staff, if he can find out, you know, how we're doing it. Is there another way? As far as debit versus credit card, and then is there a way that we can do like an e-check, an ACH or something?
I believe.
Yeah,
E-pay.
yeah. Some possible way to save the taxpayer a little bit of money when they get into a bind like that and they need to do it in a hurry. I mean, time is money. $500 to drive a half an hour each way, probably worth it to drive. I don't know too many people that make $500 an hour. We don't have too many Michael Jordans living in Will County. At any rate, okay. So that takes care of 17, 18, special service area assessment collection policy. Those are SSAs, right? Yeah. Do we collect those? We do, right?
I know why that's passed.
Okay.
There is a thing in the tax code that allows units of government, Village of Rockdale, special service area,
Yeah.
and it said they could require the treasurer to do all their collection of their money.
Okay.
There's an exemption, or the statute says there's an exemption that says that the county board can refuse to do that, or the county can refuse to do that. Not the county treasurer, the county can refuse. So that's why the county board set that policy back in 2007. That's why the date's still there. We still are collecting some that were made before December 1, 2007. But it prevented all these other units of government from burdening us with their collection work without paying for it.
So that's what this says?
That's what this says.
Do it, but
We still do it for the existing ones, but as a
but
matter
not
of
for any
policy,
new ones.
anyone created after December 1, 2007, we will not collect you. You can have all the special service areas you want, but have your own local treasurer do the collection, not us.
Because I know we have a number of them in Bolingbrook, so, and I don't know when they came into being. I'm thinking before 2007.
But back in 2007 is when the housing boom, and like down in Manhattan, they were having special service area collections for
Everything.
the roadways. They
Mhm.
sold cheaper lots because they didn't pay for the roads up front. They paid them with special service areas, and we got yelled at because we had to do the collecting from the citizens.
Okay, all right. So now everybody knows what that means. 40.19 cash reserve policy, and that is something the county board set, the 25%. so that we can pay our bills before the property tax revenues start coming in. Any questions there? Year-end reserve period policy. That's the 90 days to close
Right,
out
we,
the
it
books.
said 60, the state statute changed to 90 years ago, and we've been following the 90 anyway.
Okay. Expenditure of RTA tax revenue policy.
Write out RTA,
Yes, thank you.
Yeah,
Okay,
beat you to it. Phil, could we have just one addendum at the end with every acronym that's used? Just in case we miss one?
at the end of like all
The
of the
entire thing,
ordinances?
yeah. Or at the beginning?
I'd recommend it maybe at the end.
At the end.
Okay.
It would be discouraging.
Cause
if
I
they
know
had
like
it.
the.
Because at the beginning, you got the index or whatever, and you don't want to make them go too many pages in.
Because I know that like the vehicle code and the compiled statutes at the very end, they have definitions of words. So maybe that might be something just in case we miss something.
Yeah.
Yeah, the end is good.
Yeah. Because someone might just hit Control F RTA and find out where it's all listed.
Yeah. Okay, and that just says we can't use RTA funds for operating costs. Capital assets policy manual 22, any questions?
Phil, where is that manual?
There's a copy in the auditor's office, and I believe finance department has them both.
So would this be what dictates what they record in the D365? Because this might answer the question we had before.
This does tell what they record in the dollar amounts for it.
So this would be a part of that conversation for assets, because we want to set a dollar amount. I don't know what.
But you have to realize something. This adopts by reference these other policies.
Mhm.
You can change your dollar amounts though.
Right, that's what I'm saying. I don't know what our current dollar amount is. That was one of the questions based on Mr.
But
Richmond's
you
question.
can say, this is our policy, but you can internally say the normal standards are $50,000, but we want it to be $20,000.
Yeah.
Or
Or 1,000.
Or 1,000, or normal standards 50 and we want it to be 100. You're adopting, but it's just like you adopt the building codes, but you can modify them through your own language. You can adopt these policies and modify them.
Yeah, because there's no dollar amount in here when I went through it. It talks about computer hardware, intangibles such as right-of-way easements, there's computer software and the expected useful.
Yeah, on yeah.
Page 10.
Oh.
And the latest copy, it's page 11, I think.
Okay.
Right there.
But it
Okay,
does
yeah,
have some,
yeah.
but those are in here because those I think are different than what the normal policies, but it doesn't say what the normal policies are.
Huh.
These are our changes.
$5,000, holy cow. I do have a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
So I'm thinking I'm an open Pandora's box here. This is designed to be printed or is this designed to be online?
What do you mean?
It's gonna be
This
on.
policy, is it, when someone looks at it, is it designed to be something that's gonna be in a 3-ring binder or is it
You
something?
mean the
that
code of
people-
ordinances?
Yes.
They're in both.
So question,
I can go pull one of your code of ordinances out. We got like 3 volumes of them,
so
but they're also online at the county clerk.
So question I have for you is where's the capital assets policy manual? Can we make it so if they click on that manual, it takes them to the manual?
I would believe IT could probably do that, but
Well, I know they can do it, but is that what we want to do? Because
it's your guys' call.
this stuff references so many things. I think the average consumer just wants to click on it to go see it. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what I mean. That's why I said this is Pandora's box.
Wait,
Well, no, like on
You don't even
anything
like-
referenced, anything that's
are
referenced.
you talking about clicking on it like in the table of contents? at the
No,
beginning?
no. Like they read this capital assets policy and like I asked Phil, where's the manual? Capital assets policy manual should be a clickable link so I can click that, a hyperlink, I'm sorry, yeah.
Isn't that this?
I don't know.
You gotta realize, this came out of American Publishing. They didn't have hyperlinks.
Oh, I've gone on their site. They do hyperlinks.
They don't for ours.
They do for other ones. I
Yeah,
know
but
that.
they don't for
a fact.
ours.
Oh,
That'd be something we
Okay.
could request them to do
Yeah.
maybe.
absolutely.
But again, the bottom line is, and I haven't done it,
That's why I said it's
and I
Pandora's
stood up
box.
because I said last month I was gonna. I will talk to the county clerk
And find out.
and find out what they intend to do. If they want to self-publish these, we could put this on our mainframe, whatever you want to call it, so people could look and we could put any link we wanted. Because
Absolutely.
we control the publishing.
Absolutely.
Right
yeah.
now, American Publishing, and all we do is print what they published.
Okay. Yeah, because I do websites and making a link
Yeah.
takes 2 seconds.
But
Okay.
that's something that they would have to determine. I would rather do it, and I like doing everything in-house and not using
I love
outside
doing
vendors.
it.
But that's their call, not mine.
Yeah, okay. Do we have a web design in-house?
No.
No.
We pay to have our really?
Website design, yeah, we just gotta do a
Why-
contract with.
yeah.
Why do we not have someone in-house that does that? Okay, never mind. Okay.
Yeah, that's another.
You're
can of
back
worms.
to, this is a feudal system with a bunch of dukes and not one king. That's why
Sounds like
it's
a lot
not
of wasted
in-house.
money.
I mean, we don't even have.
Websites are so
every-
easy.
We don't even have every county-wide elected official
link.
under our website. I mean, some of them create their own website. In other words, we just hired a contractor to do the portion that the county executive and the county board controls. That's not every independent elected official. So their websites could look very, very different in terms of style or content.
So if we had one person, they would all look the same.
Yes, but they don't do it that way. Again, it's,
There you go.
they have independent control of their offices.
We've had prior IT directors that tried to do that,
Mhm.
and they got pushback from all the office holders that you're not
Mm-hmm.
telling us how to do our stuff.
It's a website.
Yeah, I know.
Yes, anything.
But they wanted to do their
Wow.
own. Maybe they had a friend, maybe they thought they knew more.
Oh, I
maybe-
don't want to hear that. Don't
Well,
wanna
they may
hear
not
that.
want it, they may,
I'm just saying,
Yeah.
you don't know why they
They-
refuse to come
Right.
all together. We
They-
don't know why.
they may not wanted IT to have access to read their stuff.
Yeah, I mean,
It's all public, okay.
I
It's all
know,
public.
God.
No, it's not.
Never knew
There's
this.
secret stuff with the sheriff and the state's attorneys
But you'll
and
put
the
that
board of
online.
health.
You don't put that
The-
online though.
But they have stuff.
No,
online.
we have it online. Not online, but we have it in our records. And what they were talking about was interfacing all that together. They wanted to control
You
all
gotta
of
be
it.
smart about it. I mean,
I
yeah.
know.
Well, so
this
what we
isn't a
were
business.
talking
You gotta
about
keep
before.
remembering This
Oh,
isn't a
sorry.
business. I'm sorry.
That's okay. What we were talking about before, tracking, the assets, I mean, it sounds like we really just need to update this capital assets policy manual. I mean, for either if we want to change the amounts, we can, or if we want to put something in there about how we want people to track it,
I think you're right, and I think the amounts, I was just gonna bring up, under tangible assets, if you go to number 2 in parentheses, which is on the end of page 10, I think. Yeah, it says assets valued at or above $1,000 and below 5,000 are considered minor assets. I think we should know how many chairs we have that are under $1,000 and desks and
Shoot, less
stuff.
than that.
I think the number should be lower. Member Ogala, did you want to turn your light on?
I really think this is now in D365. The old software system could not do this.
Right.
But I believe the new one has the capability and that they have, and Chuck will be checking with Karen
Yeah,
to give
this-
us that
find out.
information. I'm positive.
Yeah, we got to find out, because to me, anything probably, I don't know, you guys tell me, but I'm thinking 200?
I bet underneath every one of these sorry.
Turn yourself back on.
I bet underneath every one of these chairs is a barcode with the serial number on it, or at least the newer chairs.
Anything even on these, and I got to imagine these are worth a couple $100.
Oh, I'm sure they're more than that.
I mean, as an individual one, it just gives the title. Sherry's checking it out.
Yeah.
Jim's checking it out. No,
Nope,
these chairs are
nothing, you're
really
right.
old, by the way.
Yeah, the
They've been
old
here
chairs.
since before I got on the board,
And there's-
so.
Okay, so then maybe what we need
Yeah.
to do, maybe what we need to do is like implement it for assets going forward.
Yes,
Instead
yeah.
of trying, because that
Go
would be a
back.
giant task
Yeah,
to
no,
go
no, no,
back.
just
and-
new stuff. I agree.
All right.
Just new
Anyway,
stuff.
sorry, I'll be quiet
Yeah.
now.
Go ahead. Phil.
One of the things, basically what we have here is what's currently going on. So
Yeah.
if you guys want to change this, you may want to talk to leadership
Right.
about having maybe a different committee or this committee, but a smaller committee with some people and have it interface with somebody from the auditor, somebody from finance, somebody from executive, because they control all the
Yeah.
property.
That's what we're talking about.
And do it, but for these purposes, I don't think we should necessarily make changes yet, because this is all current what we do.
Mhm.
And we're gonna continue to do this until it gets changed, and it may take another year to figure out what we're doing with that.
Right.
agree.
No, agreed. I mean, I think we can pass this ordinance for the executive committee to look at, but that's gonna be their signal along with Chuck talking to them, the leadership about, hey, based on what the new software can do, and they can have a meeting, they can have a leadership meeting and invite finance, invite purchasing, and find out what that new system can actually do and make adjustments. I think member Richmond brought up a good point, and that's in this section. It just doesn't go far enough, I don't think, based on what everybody's saying in this committee. We would like smaller dollar items tracked. And that tracking would take care of that annual report. We could actually just get it from finance, at least from all the departments that choose to cooperate with finance. The other departments will have to figure out their own system, right?
But
Because we
again, if you
can't force
passed
them.
it.
The other elected officials.
They will
countywide.
probably follow.
Yeah.
Yeah, they probably will, because it will be easier for them. They won't have to do a separate report. It'll just come through. And I think to member Newquist's point, it should just be going forward. Don't worry about these old chairs we've had for 30 years, because they're not worth anything anyway. Yeah,
When we purchased equipment back down in the clerk's office, it just seemed like a best practice, right? We didn't want to take in, you know, hundreds of pieces of equipment, each one worth $5,000 or more, and not have some way that we would be able to track that equipment. So it certainly was the best practice. And again, back at the clerk's office, I never even questioned whether it was optional or not. We just did it because we felt that that was just a way that what we needed to do to receive this equipment and to document this.
Right.
So.
and it does give a timetable here. So it says furniture and fixtures, 7 years. So these chairs are no longer needed to be on anybody's list anyway. It looks like we only keep them for 7 years because there is a timetable, depreciation, right? Go ahead, member O'Connell.
So when this was written with the list of things, we had done in Bradstreet with D365, it has a lot of capabilities that we don't use. Like for instance, we should be able to look at our own little computer here and see a dashboard and say for budgeting, it should say, well, what if we took the budget and we cut it by 1%? We're supposed to be able to do that what if analysis. That's what D365 promised. In addition to that, we should be able to get an asset list and maybe even have access to that through D365.
Right.
We don't have access to any of that. They've not implemented it or they're not giving us the ability to use it. But remember, I chaired the IT committee for years. That was the intent of it. I sat through all the different meetings we had with all the different possible, companies to purchase, and they settled on it. This I recall from all this. It's just not being used. And again, maybe we just need to ask for that report and we'll have it.
Yeah, and maybe they don't have enough staff, maybe they haven't had enough training yet. I would assume they have, but if they were focused more on the finance part, not so much on the asset part, you just don't know. Okay, so any more questions about that section? You said, Phil, this is what we're currently doing, right? All these years and the items under those years.
Yeah, I
like
sent it to the
306,
auditor's office and finance, and they both said that's what we're doing.
Yeah, because to me, a roof wouldn't last 50 years. No way. Would a roof last that long? Not anyway.
As far as on page, like starting on page 11, going into 12, that whole list there,
Yeah,
we have that,
it looks cruddy, doesn't it?
it's horrible.
That's how it looks in your existing version.
Well, we should
Change
fix it. Yeah, it needs to be formatted,
Different.
because land in indefinite infrastructures, then it says, then underneath that, it should say rural roads, rural urban, whatever. Building and improvements, another thing.
Yeah, some kind of
Something, it's horrible. Bullets, I don't care what it is, but it needs to be changed.
Something.
Right,
It's just really looks wonky.
yep. I'm sure that any
Yeah.
admin could look at this in a Word document and fix it easily versus having a state's attorney pay him the salary to do it. Man, it makes sense.
Yeah.
I could do it. Yeah, exactly.
We do get this in Word, and when you have those kind of suggestions, you can modify the document and send it to them. It comes in Word. And I had that discussion with Member Freeman. I had been following suit with the way she had been doing changes, just writing them out in an email. And I realized that's not really maybe the best way to do it. It's better to highlight it in yellow, make your change in red or purple or blue or orange, and send that back to Phil. It makes it easier for him. Did we have any other suggestions for record keeping and identification? Did everybody take a look at that section? I love this section. When suspected or known losses of assets occur, the department should conduct a search for the missing property. Oh. Oh, sorry. All right, anything else? I really do want to try to finish this chapter.
2 pages.
We only have 2 pages. Says specifically, the sheriff's department uses their own numbering system for marking and tracking their vehicles. I'm wondering if that's really what's going on, or are they being included in the capital asset program of D365?
They may be using the 365, but the auditor told me the auditor doesn't keep it. The sheriff's department keeps their own. That's because the sheriff's department is usually the one that goes directly to the board that says, we got like 30 old squad cars, we need new ones. Here's our info.
I know, but it would be so much nicer if we got those annual, and maybe the auditor gets the annual report, but I don't know that it comes to the executive committee. And that's what this ordinance says, is that we're supposed to get an annual report from the sheriff's department about their inventory. And I don't think that happens. I think they just come to us and say, we got this many old cars we want to get rid of, and we'd like to buy this many new ones. That's all I have ever seen. I've never seen like a list of all of their vehicles. I was stunned one time. I found out they have like 300 vehicles or something crazy. I had no idea. There's one sitting on the block by my house that I don't think ever moves.
Really
Go ahead,
lost a
Phil.
couple.
Now, luckily for the county board, I know it's the sheriff and I think it's the coroner. They control their internal operations, but they must follow county purchasing rules.
Right.
We can maybe, when I say we, I mean you guys, not me, but as your legal advisor, I can assist, look at putting in the purchasing rules some kind of block on the sheriff and or the coroner to give you information as part of the purchasing process, so you know how to make further purchases, those type of inventories.
Does that have to be a change to this language?
No.
Would it go in a different section or?
It could go in a different section, or it may go in under 4004 purchase order contracts, which is in this section.
Yeah, I think we want that.
I mean, if it's something you want, that's something that, I can tell you your legal parameters that give you the ability to do things.
I mean, I think we want them using
So,
D365.
so Phil, I'll make a point. I sit on the finance committee for Forest Reserve, and I asked the chief of the police department to send me that information. Within 2 hours, she sent me an entire inventory of the police department.
And they would probably do that
Well,
for
they
you
should
guys
have it.
now if you
They
ask.
should have it. They should have it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it just would be better if it was all in the same system, not a separate, their own numbering system for making tracking of the,
See, I don't have they've got a big enough fleet. Their fleet may be equal to every other car we have in the county.
Yes,
So I mean, I don't have a problem with them having from a legal perspective, them having their own tracking. The problem is you guys should have access to it in order to,
make decisions.
well, yeah, you got to, even if it was just, you need 3 things, the make and model, the year we obtained it, or the
How
year of
many
the vehicle,
miles?
and maybe how many miles.
Yeah, we don't get any of that information. Member O'Gallagher?
Yeah, you remember, if you think about it, we often sit and we get this emergency situation that they need something replaced. Well, if we had, because this group is different than them, right? We come from all walks of life. So if we had this group looking at it, and the finance committee is a good spot because they're the money people, and they got to see this, they could say, well, all your cars because we didn't have a car replacement program in
We
place
didn't.
for the sheriffs, remember?
Yep.
And then suddenly they said, hey, we need 50 cars. Well, anybody who's running a business, and this is a business because it deals with money, should be looking at how many cars do we have? What are the ages of the cars, such as we do this at the Forest Preserve. Now, we do that now, but I'm just saying,
We
so
didn't before.
we didn't
Right.
before. So if we had access to this type of information and put it in here, then when you're looking at it and you're budgeting, you can say, well, listen, we're going to have to buy 3 new printers for the purchasing department or whatever, because we can see these are from whatever year. If we don't know, we're not doing that. And you remember the department head, in my opinion, is more looking at what they can do to fulfill, or elected official to fulfill their own stuff at the high level, salaries and things like that. They're not always looking at the details of furniture or something, especially if they know they could come and say, hey, I had things break, can you give me the money? So they're not budgeting for it, but they're asking for the money anyway, and we end up giving. So it's around the, kind of a workaround from budgeting for the required needs that they have. So I think we should look at some sort of policy on that for sure.
And the next one that we're not going to get to is the purchasing code, which is technically the one they have to follow.
Is that where you'd put the change?
I would put changes in there, but my legal recommendation is I'd put it in there, and I'll attempt to word something for you for next time to start you off. Not just those 2 agencies, but all the agencies.
All of them.
But
Mhm.
those 2, you have an enforcement mechanism against. The other ones is like, it's good governance and hopefully they'll do it.
Yeah, no, I agree. Okay, so then,
Sure you have something.
sorry.
Just a cautionary note, I agree with what everybody's saying, but we probably need to find out if our 365 contract includes the sheriff's department. I mean, we don't want to be making decisions based on something that we don't know if they even have access to,
But-
just a thought.
But even if they don't put it in that system, if they at least give you the information.
Exactly, that's why I'm still agreeing with all of that. But I know, Jackie, you had said like it would be great if we could all have it in one system, and it would be, but I don't know what our contract encompasses, that's all. They are?
Yeah, she said they're all included, so.
I got one more point.
Yep.
Well, that's a
So,
good thing.
and this is a question for Phil, and this is to Judy's point. She said about businesses having assets. Does the county have an asset protection department? Because
No,
every company I've ever worked for has one, and I did it for 10 years with some other major stores. We don't have an asset protection department.
no, again, we're a feudal system. Everybody's their own prince with no king.
Okay.
And the asset protection department is determined by each office holder. We've had regional superintendent of schools stole money and did stuff. We arrested them, criminally prosecuted them, put them in prison years ago. But there is no, I guess our asset protection department's the sheriff arresting people for breaking the law.
Yeah,
don't-
that's not,
but
they
no, we
would
don't.
track assets.
Yeah,
and
but
stuff
we
like
don't.
that. We
Everybody,
don't.
everybody controls their own.
Yeah, hold on,
We
we
don't.
gotta turn on your mic.
I think Bill Fern does some of that stuff. He was looking into so many different things. So I don't know that it's that title, but he is responsible for looking at all that stuff and replacing things as needed and track. I really think he is.
I
Again,
know
maybe
they got us
Chuck
on a
could look at
schedule,
that.
but yeah, I don't know.
And
So
the
it's
auditor
in
looks
effect.
too.
Yeah. All right, we're gonna do this last little section here, hopefully, and call it quits if you guys don't mind. 40.23 civil union fee. The
We're
fee is-
actually correct, we're actually collecting 35, which is
Right.
what the state statute says.
Okay. And then payment of fees, fines by credit card, that goes on to what we were talking about before.
And that's for administrative adjudication purposes, but from what I understand, they don't honor it. They make people give them checks, so we're gonna yell at them and say, let them pay by credit card.
Oh,
Because that one is our money. We don't even have to have fees for that one. $100 fine, we could take $100 and we just get 97 of it or whatever,
yeah. I
because
mean,
that's only our money.
Yeah,
With taxes, with all other units of government money, we couldn't,
right.
if we waived a fee to come out of our general fund.
Yeah, I think we could just waive the fee and take the money. We want the money. A
That's
check
what we
bounces.
discussed last time. We discussed that
Right.
last time.
Okay,
Yeah, so that one, that's there.
okay.
And the last one is the $35 fee for attorney identification cards by the sheriff. We did set that, that's something we created ourselves for access to the courthouse under our own administrative authority.
Oh, is that why we got ID cards? Because
No.
I have an ID card.
No, yeah, but that's why the lawyers have ID cards to get in without going through the special metal detectors, not the long line ones.
Uh-huh.
Is that $35 fee.
Oh, the lawyer pays the fee. I got
The
you.
lawyer pays the fee once a
Okay.
year.
We didn't have to pay a fee for our.
Right.
Okay. All right, so do we need a motion on 40? Just an overall motion to move that forward to the
As
executive
amended.
committee as amended?
I'll make a motion to move it forward as amended.
And
Previous Logan.
Second, Trinier. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
I'll get chapters 37 and 42 guys as amended soon.
Mhm.
I already have in my mind a little bit of way how to tighten up that long string
Okay,
to make it look a little more
Sure.
precise. But I want to get that to you early because if somebody says, I don't like how you do it and they got a better way, I still want to get it in order to give it time to get
and
the,
if anybody else has an idea, feel free to open that Word document and make a change and send it to Phil.
So Phil, I just have a question for you. So I have sent them corrections to you in two ways. One, as the chair has spoken about just putting it, highlighting it on the Word with the little paragraph to the side.
I don't care how you do it.
Or the other format is where I type it all out. Which do you prefer? You don't care?
I don't care because I retype it anyway.
Okay.
Because I want to have in my computer retyped at least whatever's valid. Just in that form in case somebody needs it.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I will not be here at the July meeting. You be in charge.
When is that?
I don't know.
I'm out of the,
Are you out of town too?
I'm out of the country in July.
Me too.
Uh,
Do we want to?
Oh, the 8th I'm here. The 8th.
Yeah, I can find another day. We used to do these later in the month. And then new chairman, new speaker made some changes in the schedule and I was like, oh, this comes up much sooner now. So let's look at another day. I get back from NACO, I think on the 15th or 16th. I mean, I'm
Oh, so there's lots of
happy
those.
to meet on the 22nd after the full board meeting. It would be, what, 2 weeks later? 22nd of July. Does anybody else have vacation plans?
I'm back then.
Okay, so can you make that change for us, please?
Is that
Yeah,
the Thursday
yeah.
board meeting?
No, it's after the board meeting. Yeah.
No, but I mean, that's the day of the board meeting?
No.
Oh, you mean after, gotcha.
Tuesday after the
It's
board
still the
meeting.
Tuesday. I just wanted to know what
Yeah,
day
it's
it
still
was.
Tuesday, still 10 o'clock. It would just be on the 22nd.
All right.
And if that's okay with everybody, it sounds like it is. We didn't ask Dawn. She's
Yeah,
not
we
here,
kick it
but-
over another month. They wouldn't get it till August anyway. It's not gonna
Yeah.
hurt nothing.
Remind me of every day on that day.
Okay, I don't have any other old business or new business. Any public comment, any public comment, any public comment? No announcements other than the change in the date and no need for an executive session. So I'll take a motion to adjourn.
Second Logan.
All those in favor? Those opposed can stay. Have a great day.
Oh, whoa, I didn't oppose, I'm not saying.
Thanks, Vince. You did a great job.
Oh, yeah.
You've been at this longer than me, so.
Oh, but